Hey guys, it's Alex with Plantsnpaws, and I just wanted to tell you what I learned in my first 2 years as a plant mama. Let's jump into it. So, number 1, adjust your soil based on your watering style. Not on what the plant wants or what some other guru says is the best soil for plants ever. It doesn't need to be an aeroid mix or a calathea mix. Don't do that. Don't waste your fucking time. Pardon my French. Why do we call cussing using French? Why is that? Obviously, I wouldn't use a cactus mix for a peace lily, but you need to adjust based on your home, your environment, your watering habits. If you are a helicopter parent and you like to water your plants a lot, I would say get a peace lily and put it in cactus mix. No, I'm just kidding. But the less water retentive your soil is, the more often you'll have to water your plants. Oh, here comes Jeannie. Jeannie, say hi. Hello, camera people. What's up? Okay, you want to hang out? Yeah, so I would say my watering habits range from sometimes overwatering, very rarely these days. I range from sometimes overwatering to usually underwatering. So I like a slightly more moisture retentive mix. I used to use a lot of orchid mix and perlite and stuff like that, and I don't anymore because I'm not watering as often now that I'm back to work at my full-time job, really. I'm a restaurant server, so I have all morning to do things before work, and I still don't. I mean, pretty much the only thing I do is feed the cats and water my plants. Yeah, and as for what soil I like, I get black gold from the Ace Hardware across the street from my apartment. They make a really great orchid mix and a really good basic soil. I like the one that has worm castings in it, so I don't have to fertilize as often. I mean, if your home is hot and dry, like if you live in Arizona and it's summertime, I would definitely use a less chunky mix. For me, personally, I don't know about you, but I don't water that often, or I don't want to have to water that often, let's put it that way. I do water often. I'm pretty much watering at least one plant every day. But I have a lot of plants. I have somewhere in the 80 to 85 plant range. So I'm constantly watering something, but I don't want to water half my collection every 3 days, So I use a little bit less chunky soil, and I avoid terracotta for the most part, because terracotta will wick moisture away from the soil. Let's see. Yeah, I would adjust my mix based on whether I'm using terracotta or plastic or ceramic pots. I would make adjustments based on that. I would adjust on, if your plants seem to be drooping and heck thirsty like every 3 days, yeah, I would change that soil to something that is more moisture retentive. Not a soil that has moisture retentive beads in it or anything like that, because we're not talking about Miracle Grow on this channel. But yeah, anything other than, say, orchid bark or pumice, I would avoid, and I would use the smaller pieces. Especially the smaller the plant, the less soil amendment they're really going to need, because they're trying to soak up all the goodness from the water. And of course, adjusting your soil mix leads me into tip number 2, which is don't water on a schedule. Know how heavy your pot feels when you've just watered it. And if your plant looks even remotely sad, pick up the pot and it'll probably feel at least half that heavy. And if that's the case, then you probably need to water it. If you're not sure, you can stick a finger in the soil, think, and just save the species, if you will. If I forget the last time I've watered a certain plant, especially because I have a lot of them, and it hasn't quite started to wilt yet, but I'm just like, you look a little dry, I will bottom water it. I would especially bottom water if you tend to be a helicopter plant parent and water your plants a lot. It makes it a lot harder to overwater. If there's still some moisture at the bottom of the plant, it will only take up as much water as the soil can hold without ruining the plant. At least that's what I've discovered. If you're a chronic underwaterer, though, don't waste your time water watering. Yeah, don't do it. Don't waste your time. And like I was saying earlier, I think my biggest success as a plant parent was when I decided to stop trying to water on a schedule. I water my plants Wednesday and Sunday, or every other Wednesday, or whatever. I don't do that anymore. I don't water on a schedule anymore. I make sure to check my plants every day. I dedicate 15 minutes to half an hour to checking plants that I know I didn't check yesterday, and I water whoever needs it in that span of time, however much I have to dedicate to plants. And this requires you to be very intuitive about your plants and knowing what the plants feel like when the pot is, empty of water versus, I watered you yesterday. But yeah, like, as long as you're intuitive with your plants, watering on a daily basis, but not every single plant every day, I feel like I'm getting confusing. Make a point to water your plants daily based on their needs, not yours. Does that make sense? Especially for me, like having ADHD, if I try to water at a certain time, or can you stop that, you weirdo? You're tickling me. If I try to water at a certain time, or every other week, it doesn't work for me. I will forget. Something will come up. Don't do it. Don't waste your time. Just do it every day, just like you brush your teeth. Slowly water your plants while you enjoy your tea or coffee, or if you don't have time in the morning, do it when you get home from work while you're drinking a decaf. Death before decaf. Just kidding. No, I'm not kidding. Death before decaf. If it's after work, drink wine or a beer and water your plants. Just do it during the first drink, just in case. Anyway, moving on to point number 3. Tip number 3 that I learned as a beginner plant mom. Learn about plants before you buy them. I am a very guilty peperomia and succulent killer. I can't help it. I overwater them. They don't work in my apartment. The only remotely succulent things I have are my Hoya, which I only have 2 pots of. One has a bunch of different Hoyas in it, and the other one is in another room. It has my Hoya Bella, and for some reason, it works. Hoya, let's put it this way. I'm never going to give a tutorial on Hoya on this channel. See, Hoya peperomia, I have killed every single peperomia I've ever had, except for my peperomia prostrata, aka string of turtles. But I'll insert a picture of how I planted that. It has about this much soil, and there's like 4 other cuttings in there. And they're in a thrifted mocha pot. Like, there's no way I'm overwatering that thing because there's barely any soil. There's lots of plants to drink up the water, and it gets a lot of light from a grow light. It's the only reason those plants are happy. And then I have a little Haworthia and a Kalanchoe that are both planted in my open terrarium, which is pretty cute if I do say so myself. I'm waiting for the Kalanchoe to bloom again because that is so pretty. But yeah, know your watering style and research plants before you get them. It is possible to have every type of plant you could ever desire, but you need to know where they originate from in the wild. For example, a desert cactus from Arizona could do well in California, as long as you don't, overwater it and give it too much humidity. And I wouldn't put it in a closed terrarium. And they, for the most part, need full sun. So I would do a cactus outside only. I can't do stuff like that in my apartment. But being self-aware and researching your plants is very important. And again, being self-aware, you also should understand your aesthetic. If you're like Rachel from Heart-Shaped Leaves, her aesthetic is in her freaking channel name. She likes heart-shaped leaves. Yes, she loves those heart-shaped philodendrons and anthurium and all that. She likes pointy shapes. That's why the begonia work, because they're not, like, they have dimension and angles and stuff like that. My personal aesthetic is very similar to hers, except I like plants with rich colors. I love heart-shaped leaves too, don't get me wrong, but for me it's more about those deep greens and like dimensional variegation. I love the half moons. I don't go in for the Monstera Brasigiana and Deliciosa. The big long stalks just don't do it for me. I like my vine plants for the most part and my bushy plants. But those things just look a little bit too crazy for me. I don't know, it's not. Again, that's my aesthetic. It doesn't have to be yours, but you have to know it. You have to know what kind of plants you like, and you'll be less likely to want to yeet them later or sell them. You're smarter than I am. I personally have style keywords that I learned from Carol Title's Just in Your Truth program. I can link to that down below in the description box. My keywords are rich, dynamic, and I don't know, I'm like looking around all my plants. Yeah, I like plants that are viney or bushy. I I detest when my plants get leggy. Tip number 4 is keep plants moving around. If you've watched any of my houseplant tours, you will see that my plants pretty much don't stay in the same spot. I do have corners of my apartment that are dedicated to, you know, my philodendron and prayer plants are all in one section. I have a corner that's more philodendron, low light stuff, you know, that's fine. I have spider plants all over my apartment. But yeah, I really like to adjust placement of my plants based on whether they look happy or not, really, and whether this little nugget is going to knock it down. Because she does that. She goes pew pew, pew pew, and she knocks the plants over. There's usually a soil explosion. And sometimes the plants die, and it's really sad. Even worse, with my onion plants, Murphy will chew on them if they are too close to his eyesight. Last time Murphy ate one of my plants, he decimated this guy. It's been like a year and it's grown back beautifully. But yeah, he ate pretty much like this much plant. Luckily these are non-toxic to animals, but I was so bummed. It took me so long to grow this thing out in the first place because it had to acclimate to the apartment and all that. And then he ate the whole thing. And then he threw it up everywhere because, you know, it's not like chewed it. He went, and then it was gone. And it probably irritated his tummy without being toxic. But yeah, then he threw it up and I had to clean that up and cry over the plant. Freaking cats, man. But yeah, if my plants seem unhappy and I know I haven't over or underwatered it, I'm gonna move it. I'm gonna make intuitive guesses and either move it closer to my grow light or closer to my humidifier. And if that works, it lives there now. If it doesn't, it'll get moved somewhere else. And obviously I buy new plants every once in a while, and that also causes plants to have to scooch one way or the other or completely move to a different spot, but you know, shit happens. Let's see. Tip number 5. If you see a new leaf, fertilize your plant. It's using as much energy to push out one new leaf as it does to maintain itself most of the rest of the time. And you know, my apartment gets pretty good light all day. I have an east-facing window, and light reflects off the wall that's on the building. Light reflects off the wall of the building next to us, so we get light coming in through the window directly. And in the kitchen, in here, we get light that is bouncing off the wall and coming in, and I have grow lights over 95% of my plants, so they kind of always need something to supplement so they can use the chlorophyll they're making, or however plants work. But yeah, so I always do like a quarter strength fertilizer every time I water, just so that I'm not over fertilizing, but so my plants don't ever feel desperate for fertilizer, if that makes sense. But especially if you see a new leaf, it needs extra energy. It needs, even in winter. Anyway, this has been Alex from Plantsnpaws with a brief cameo by Jane. Maybe next time you'll see Murphy in a video. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. You know what? Leave a comment down below. Either leave a little green heart or a cat emoji, or tell me which of your favorite plants your cat has chewed on. Bye guys, have a great day.
What are you sniffing my tummy? It's weird. Yeah, you're weird.
Just sitting in my lap like, it's a crazy girl. Yes, it's a nice table, huh? You didn't see her? Oh, there's Jane. She's a crazy girl. Okay, anywho. I had a spaz attack. You should under your plant. You should, and leggy kind of goes with a long internodal space. So like this guy here, my perfect heart-shaped leaf on my variegated string of hearts. It's got a pretty long internode, but it's still cute. But it's not my favorite plant. Oh my god, I totally forgot about a succulent I didn't kill. The less internodal space you have, and the less leggy and more voluptuously viney they will be. I said, stop biting me. Freaking cats, man.